Okay, hello everyone. Happy Wednesday, and welcome to our alumni panel and Q&A session. My name is Bobby. I'm a member of the admissions team here at Design Lab, and today I'm super excited to present this exciting event to you, in which we have four successful alums on the call who successfully completed the UX Academy program and then moved on to very fulfilling careers in the UX and UI design career space. So once again, welcome. So before we get started, I'd actually like to learn a little bit more about you. So if you don't mind, please share your name in the chat and let us know where you're tuning in from just to get us started here today. So as mentioned, my name is Bobby. I'm tuning in from New Jersey, where it's a very pleasant evening, not too cold, not too hot. And I'm curious to see where everyone else is tuning in from. Okay, I see Jake tuning in from San Jose. Let's see. I see Zach from Boston. Welcome. Okay, I see Annie tuning in from LA. I see Maria, Canada, or Toronto, Canada. I see Lizelle tuning in from Vallejo, California. Jess, Queens, New York, very nice. Katie, Austin. Katie tuning in from Austin, Texas. I see Kevin tuning in from Maryland. Mara, Finger Lakes, New York. Welcome. Dan, greetings from Colorado. Very nice. And Andrew tuning in from San Francisco. Charlie, Pennsylvania, Mina, Maryland. Very nice. Okay, wonderful. Looks like we have a wide smattering of us on the call today. And Chioma, welcome, tuning in from DC. Okay, awesome. Thank you all for letting me know where you're tuning in from and sharing your name. So without further ado, let's hop into the agenda. So this list or outlines how the event is going to be run today. So we'll start off by having each alum give an introduction by sharing their name, their current role, and their previous or what their background was prior to starting a UX Academy. Then we'll move on and participate in the Q&A. So I'll ask the alums a series of questions just to provide some context about their background and overall experience in the course. And then we'll actually have you enter questions in the chats tab. Actually would be more than happy. Actually, now would be a great time. If you'd like to start entering questions in the chats tab that you'd ideally like me to ask the alums, and I'll hold them over for the participant Q&A. I will ensure that I get to as many questions as possible. And then that brings us to our closing. So without further ado, let's start with the alumni intro. So we have Kevin Schertz, Mina Eng, Galina Kaplan, and Andrew Corey. So I'll have each of them introduce themselves and tell us a little bit more about their background. So Kevin, kick us off.
Sure, Bobby. Hi, I'm Kevin Schertz. I'm located in Salisbury, Maryland. My background is as an architect. I've been a licensed architect for over 20 years. Graduated from Design Lab in June of last year. Got my job last November, and I'm now a product planner with a company called Vectorworks, which makes 3D design software for architects, engineers, and landscape engineers and the entertainment industry.
Very nice. And we'll have Mina.
Hello, my name is Mina. I am a product designer currently. My background initially was in graphic and multimedia design, and I did Design Lab last year. I should know this. Last year between March and July, I believe, and then I found my current job in November, and I am currently on a project that is a contract role for the government. I am working on redesigning the travel.state.gov website.
Wow, very nice. And I present to you Galina.
Hi guys, my name is Galina. I'm based in Ottawa, Canada, and my background is in journalism, but I've been working in tech, but not in the UX role for a couple of years. I graduated from UX Academy last September, and I found my current role, started my current role in February this year. And I'm now a UX designer at Shopify, which is a big e-commerce company based here in Canada, but we work globally.
Very nice. And without further ado, Andrew.
Hi, everyone. My name is Andrew Corey. I graduated from Design Lab, let's see, I had to check, June of 2023. Before that, I was in the retail industry. So I worked in Philadelphia Urban Outfitters, then I worked in SF at Levi's, each around 5 years. Originally from upstate New York, so I saw Finger Lakes in the chat. Shout out. I got an internship in one of my last weeks of Design Lab at Aya Healthcare. That transferred into a full-time job. I've been there for a year and a half. Yeah, I'm having a great time. I'm excited to talk about it.
That's wonderful. Thank you to our alums for sharing their backgrounds. As you can see, it's a wide smattering. Everyone seemingly has a totally different background that's not necessarily design related. So that's just a testament to how interdisciplinary the field is. So now, without further ado, I want to jump into some questions. So we'll start off with our alumni Q&A session. So the very first question that I have for each alum that I'd like all of you to answer is, I want to know a bit more about your motivations for pursuing the career change. So would you mind sharing what was the impetus into getting you into UX and UI design?
Do you want me to go first? Do we just want to follow the same order?
Oh yes, actually yes. Let's follow the same order. So
Okay.
Kevin, you're up.
Okay. Oh man, I go first every time. Great. Well, I mean, long story short, when the pandemic hit, like I said, I am still a registered architect. It really disrupted the construction industry in a serious way and continued to for several years afterwards. And quite frankly, I just burned out and got just really, really disillusioned with a lot of the challenges that there was in the physical building space. Before I became an architect, I actually worked for the company I'm now working for now, when it was a much smaller company back in the late 90s. So I knew that I wanted to get back into the field. I always enjoyed it, and just wanted to make sure that I had a formal education to augment my experience as an architect. And it just so happened that when I was graduating and looking, the company I used to work for had an opening happen, and it just worked out that way. So really, it was a matter of the after effects of the pandemic really prompted me to make a career change.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you, Kevin. And Mina, you're up.
Yeah, so in my past life, then I also did a bit of, I guess, like web design for clients. I was at an agency. Although there wasn't necessarily any sort of like research or methodology to it. It was just like designing the website for the sake of designing the website. So as I learned that, there are specific like reasonings for why things are being supposed to be built and designed a certain way, that kind of like jump started that sort of mindset of like, oh, this is like a completely different type of role, a different type of like skill set that I can get into. So I felt like it was kind of like a nice, smooth transition for me. I know that I'm a little bit different in this group of alumni, but I felt like it was a nice, smooth transition for me to go into product and UX design from what I was initially doing.
Yes, very nice. Thank you, Mina.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and Galena.
So I've had my eyes on UX design for a while before joining UX Academy, just knowing about it because I worked in tech and I saw people doing that. And I started back in 2020, just doing a short course with Design Lab, the Design 101, which was there then, which was then rebranded to UX Foundations, just doing it very casually to get a sense of what design is, but then stepping back from UX multiple times. And I did that with other courses as well, just trying and then stepping back, but then trying to understand why I'm not pursuing it. And then I realized that with just a fear of starting all over again, having no support, having no support network, just the fear of changing the career. And so that's what was me knowing about UX, but not really doing anything about it. But then I actually finally pulled the trigger and started the UX Academy, which actually gave me that support network that I was looking for. Just someone who would pat you on the back and say, you've got it, you're doing this. So I think, that's how I discovered and pivoted.
Awesome. Thank you, Galena and Andrew.
So I found my way into UX. So I've been working in retail for around 10 years. I think I hit a point in my career similar to Kevin where pandemic really jostled the industry. I think I hit a point, both sustainability of the longevity of my career and sustainability of kind of clothing in the retail industry at large. Interestingly enough, Levi's actually hosted an AI ML bootcamp opportunity in the company that was paid for, which I took part in. And it really opened my eyes to just how slow the retail industry was to adopt technology, and to also offer myself an opportunity to work more than just retail brands. Obviously, you can be in healthcare, fintech, climate tech. There's so many other ways that we can be useful in this industry. I also had a friend who did Design Lab and pivoted as well, so really gave me kind of an inside scoop of what was possible. Yeah, so that's kind of like the short of how I got into UX design.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you all for answering the very first question and providing some context about your background. So now I actually want to ask about your overall UX Academy experience, and I'd like you to speak to what aspects of the course you found most rewarding, what did you find challenging, and how did you find support to guide you through the entire course? So I know that's a very loaded question.
Sure. Well, one of the things that I really appreciated about Design Lab was the formal structure that it created. I went and I was doing Design Lab full time, so I left the job that I had to become a full time student, and I certainly wasn't going to convince my wife I could sit home all day and watch YouTube videos. Trying to learn how to do UX. So the formal structure of it was very helpful. Once I was in the coursework, having a mentor was fantastic. I did the foundations course, and then I did academy, and those experiences with the mentors was fantastic. I felt like I had really good support there. And then it's also the cohort of people that you're taking the classes with the Discord and everything, being able to stay connected with people all over the world who are doing the exact same thing you are, some days are better than others, and some days you're all just together. But it really helps to provide a level of camaraderie and esprit de corps, to know that others are going through the exact same things that you are.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kevin.
Do I go next?
Oh, yes, you're up, Mina.
Okay. So also to echo what Kevin said, I actually had a thought that really appreciated cohort organization of how Design Lab was structured. I think the most rewarding thing was just being able to have the capstone projects at the end, to be able to put something on your portfolio, to be able to show you're able to do these processes and be able to show something for that, and have proof of that. I do think that the most challenging part was finding enough people to actually do your tests. I remember always being in Discord being like, hey, could anybody, do these interview, do this, do my unmoderated task, and I'll return the favor. So I think that was actually the most challenging, but in a way, it also wasn't, because everybody was very willingly, they were willing to volunteer to do that for you, even if they weren't asking for something back, which was probably the sweetest thing. And I think as far as support, I think the critique sections were actually quite helpful for me. Being able to show your work and have a different eye for it. I agree that, my mentor was great. I really loved her. But also having a second, additional opinions on that as well. So I think the critique sections were actually quite helpful for me to be able to see other people's projects and concepts as well, because I like seeing those things. But also having additional eyes on my own projects, because I think that sometimes when I get into a sort of vision, then I'm tunnel visioning through and I don't really see other options of what it could be better. So I think those were all around pretty helpful for me.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Mina. And Galina, you're up.
I think what bothered me was the structure, the more of unmoderated structure of the course. So I did other courses before where you would come in very much like the university style and sit in a lecture for 2 hours and then do your homework, which completely did not work for me. But that is just a learning style, a personal preference. But also I am a mom to a little kid, and at that time she was 1.5 years. So committing to 2 hours of sitting and listening to someone talking was definitely not an option. But I really appreciated that this could be self-paced in terms of how much time you devote every day, but also the system keeps you accountable. So it's not that you even need to find the motivation. You have your regular meetings with a mentor where you need to bring something to show, and also design critiques. They mimic your actual design work, where let's say on Thursday, you have a 10 a.m. meeting with your team and you have to bring something. So like just having that in mind, having like your little micro deadlines really help to stay on track, but also making sure that if you want to study late night, that's okay. You don't have to show up at 6 p.m., let's say, where it's like the most busy time in my household. So yeah, that really helped. And yeah, design critiques are cool. Also, the key, I think, is finding the people who are you vibing with, just having the mentor who you really like, having the career mentor later on who you really like, and picking just one facilitator for the design critique, I think was great, just also to build that relationship. And then you're just feeling that you have this community, and it's just easier to navigate.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Galina. And Andrew?
Going last is so easy. You guys give all the good answers. I will say right off the beginning, I included my friends and family just kind of in what I was doing. Like, hey, I'm quitting my job like kind of Kevin. I'm really throwing myself at this new endeavor wholeheartedly. And it helped me both be accountable to what I was achieving. It kind of made me want to hold myself to that regard. Also use them as user testing. I had an email chain of always reaching out to them to be able to know I had 8, 10, 12 people at a moment's notice. I think Mina hit so many nails on the head for me. Group critique was also amazing. I think once you found a critique that kind of fit your schedule, it was almost like a mini cohort in itself, that you'd meet new people outside of your exact cohort, really polish your kind of people skills. I will not to get too far ahead, but I think that was something that really benefited me once I switched careers, having had experience kind of showcasing my ideas and being comfortable speaking, because being in a remote environment like I'm at, you only get so much screen time, and to make sure you can articulate your ideas in a design critique, both in design lab and in real world, you need to be able to be clear and concise and get stakeholders on your side. I think also having a mentor that was amazing to me. I had the same one in foundations and I requested it for academy, which I think isn't always typical, but I think we had such a great relationship. It really helped. I had another answer and it's slipping my mind. I would say the most difficult thing for me to get used to was the timeline. I did it full time. I think in phase 2, once we had the turnaround capstones every 2 weeks, that was very quick. But I think also articulated in my role I have now, sometimes my stakeholders need prototypes in 2 weeks. And I don't always get to do the double diamond approach to do everything we've learned. So I think it really put me in a position to both be uncomfortable with work to show up to critiques, but also mimic the real world scenario as well.
Yes, awesome. Thank you, Andrew. So the next question that I have for all of you, most of you already alluded to it, but I just want more context about how your one-on-one mentor sessions were, like the value that you got out of those sessions and how they prepared you for your career ultimately. So if you guys want, we can totally switch up the speakers, so we can leave it a free for whoever wants to go first. You're more than welcome to.
Yeah, let somebody else go first.
Okay, cool.
Okay, let me go first. Go first to save you some talking
I'll
time.
go after you. Yeah.
Okay. So, well, I actually changed team mentors before I landed on the mentor who I really liked. And I think that is both, the benefit to you and also the respect to the other part, because that's a two-way street. And if you don't quite enjoy your relationship, then it's a-okay. And I'm really happy that Design Lab really supported me in that. Just finding the person who I really enjoy. And the person who I was paired with, and also you're very free to provide the criterion who are looking for. And I feel like that was really well received from the Design Lab. And that person was just amazing. I don't know, we just like had a very good time and learning and embracing that beginner mindset and just asking all the questions. That was just awesome to have that one-on-one. And over the course of, well, in my case, month, because I did part-time, so it took me 10 months to complete the program. We developed a very strong relationship too. So, and we now keep in touch, and I really feel like I have a designer somewhere in the world who really cheers for me and supports me and really hold me best. So I think it's a great way also to start building your connections.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you, Galina.
Yeah, I had different mentors between my foundations course and then the academy course. When I first started academy, I was paired with a mentor, and we just didn't connect. It just didn't. It was pretty apparent very early on that it just wasn't the right fit. So, like Galina just mentioned, I did change mentors, and the second mentor I had, she was absolutely wonderful. She was the head of a design department for a major corporation in the Netherlands, and so there was a definite time difference between the Netherlands and me here in Maryland. But we made it work. It was right at the end of her day. It was earlier in my day, and it just was a fantastic. It was a fantastic experience. And one of the things that came out of it, and I found this myself in doing mentorship things, is that she was just as excited about the projects as I was. In addition to giving really good feedback and everything, I tell that there was an emotional investment on the part of the mentor in the whole process, and so that feeds upon itself. When somebody's rooting for you and you want to do the best work and everything like that, and we still keep in touch now. So it is something where the mentorship experience for me was a very positive one, but it also required me to advocate for my own experience. And when it was clear that the mentorship was not working with the other one, to make a change, and I let them know, and there were no hard feelings or anything like that. But that's something that you have to advocate for yourself for.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Kevin.
I can go next. So I think I got really lucky. I liked, or like my mentor and I from the start, I think we got along really well. We happened to be the same age and happened to be the same time zone. In fact, in the same like area. She was like in DC. So it was just really funny how that really lined up. But overall, I do think that like she was very, very helpful throughout the like my time doing the course. I did full time, so it was what, like 4-ish months, 3-4 months, and we met the 2 times a week as allotted. And she was one thing that I really appreciated from her is that she was able to bring in like her real life experience and be able to tell me what it was like after, she graduated, and like she was able to speak to like her own experience doing design lab and graduating, job hunting, etc. And she was able to like, even when we were going through like my capstone projects and things like that, or talking about whatever it is we had to go through, like the lesson plans, then she was able to bring in like her actual like work examples. So it was good to see something that existed in real life, not just like an idea that I had in my head that I had to work through. So I think that was just, super useful, and we still do keep in touch. I like scheduling calls with her because it's like I'm meeting with her again as needed. So she was really great. Her name is Naya Watkins, if anybody's curious, but she's awesome.
Awesome. Thank you, Mina.
So I kind of spoke to it a little bit, but I had a mentor in foundations that really got on with. So like I said, I spent some time in Philadelphia before I moved out to SF. My mentor happened to be from Philly and just kind of got on, whether he kind of sports or just other types of things that we just connected on. In Academy, I had a new mentor, and I think kind of to steal a little bit of Kevin's experience, there was no malice, no venom. It just didn't click. It just felt like there wasn't that connection that I was looking for, whether it be just kind of the exact learning style. And I think another great point of being able to vouch for myself, it felt awkward at times to be like, hey, I need a new person. But there was nothing that really offended anyone either way. My mentor had enough bandwidth to take me back on. And I think something I just really loved about just the foresight of being able to have industry experience beyond Design Lab, and to really both be able to see the minutia and the details, but then like the forest beyond the trees. It's just kind of my learning style, both not necessarily overtly intense and critical of my designs, but very much guiding. And I think everyone has their own personal preference, of which you can very much detail in your needs. But that was kind of my mentorship experience.
Oh, very nice. Thank you, Andrew. So now, this question I think is super important, considering that all of our alums are now working in UX design capacity. So the question that I have for all of you is, what was it actually like becoming a UX designer? Like, how well did the UX Academy program prepare you? And could you just talk a little bit more about the overall transition?
I'm happy to throw myself at it first.
Go for it, Andrew.
So I did full-time Design Lab. I quit my job full-time, Super lucky and fortunate. I mean, I'm reading the chat as well, and I'm just very privy of kind of what's going on LinkedIn, what's going on in the market. It's difficult. I managed to find an internship opportunity through a Design Lab alumni in the Discord channel. She said, hey, my company's hiring for internships. I had no previous desire to be in healthcare. I think I had a not naive aspiration of, hey, I come from the retail industry. What about e-commerce? Where can I parlay my skills into something that makes sense? I had not to demean internships, but I've done unpaid internships before. It was something that I didn't know if I was kind of above that, but I ended up having internship and then 90 days to hire. Started full time. I kept waiting for them to figure me out that imposter syndrome was very real. Just when's the jig going to be up that I'm working remote and that is this really true happening to me? So that was kind of like my transition into a full-time role. Did Design Lab prepare me? I think it's such a loaded question. I think a curriculum can only carry someone so far. I think there's just that outside experience. I come from a previous career and kind of cut my teeth and can talk to stakeholders and can present myself and do all these things that Design Lab can peripherally plant the seeds. It can give you good foundations for Figma skills and how to, from group critiques and other examples of how to share your work and to convey your ideas. We never had overt experience with program managers or developers, but I think those are all things that can be learned very quickly with just kind of people skills. So I think those were kind of my quick tenets of what might still need to be polished outside of a curriculum like Design Lab.
Very nice. Thanks, Andrew.
I think what Andrew said is very, very real. Specifically the parts about imposter syndrome, that does happen, absolutely. And also just the note about how Design Lab can only prepare you for so much because you don't work with PMs, you don't work with actual developers yet. So I think you learn the things that you need to learn, the basics, and then you're in your full-time job or internship, part-time, whatever it may be. And that's where you truly understand how it is to work in a UX team or even just with other people surrounding your job. So I think that you do learn the basics and things like that. But I think that actually getting the really, and it's also sorry, I'm actually my brain is going into a lot of different places. But I think another part that's really important is just that the processes are different from every single place. Some people might be doing lean agile. Some people might be doing safe agile. And it's so different depending on which company you're working for and what their process is like. So I think even now there's still a learning curve. I've almost been at my job for almost a year now, but even so, I'm still constantly learning. So Design Lab was great for setting me up for that. And I think that was the biggest takeaway I would have from it. I'm also sorry, I don't remember a lot of how did I transition?
Yeah, no worries.
I was full-time, but I was also working full-time. So it was kind of craziness for those 4 months. And then I was job searching for, I think 3 months before I got my current job.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mina.
I'll go next. So I went full-time as well. I did the foundations course part-time while working full-time. Just wanted to see if it was a good fit, see if I was going, if I was on the right track or not. And then like I said, went full-time. Started at the beginning of December in 22 and finished up in June of 23. So I actually took a little bit longer than what some of the full-time tracks do, but with the delay of the mentor, and then I also was lucky enough to get COVID, it delayed me a little bit. My personal experience maybe is a little different than some because I went and worked for a company that I worked for many years ago. And that had the added benefit that even though it's a tech company, there were still some people there that were there when I was there before. So, except they had now moved up into higher ranks within the company. So I knew in a sense what I was getting myself into within the context of working with people and what it was like to work with engineers and stuff, because I had done that before. So as far as what Design Lab taught me was really about the design language and really about the discussion of design decisions, being able to talk about workflows, be able to talk about UX research methodologies and basically how that can be applied within the existing company. I mean, I am now 53, so I left my prior company when I was 51. So I have many years of work experience under my belt, seasoned employee or whatever you want to call it, whatever euphemism you want. So there's a lot of life skills that go into being with any job, in my opinion, and those don't go away just because you change jobs, So there's only, as has been said before, there is Design Lab is only going to do so much for you because that's all that an educational experience can do. But more than anything else, what I do believe a formal education will teach you how to learn. And I do believe that Design Lab definitely fell into that mold, at least in my experience.
Wonderful. Thank you, Kevin. And I have one. Oh, actually, yeah, go for it. Yes, Galina, you're up.
I'll be quick and brief. I think we've just covered the most of it. I'll just say that, well, for me, in terms of the track, I did the part-time and it took me, as I said, 10 months. So it's pretty long. But I also took a break of however many weeks we were allowed to. So because I also felt like I burned myself out with the pace that I was going. So I was just like taking a little bit of a mental care. But what I wanted to share is that imposter syndrome is so real. And when you go in the workplace, especially when you're starting to look for a job, you feel like a major imposter. But I recently read that real imposters don't actually have the imposter syndrome. So if you do feel that, there is a very high chance you're actually not. So that, I think, helps when you start feeling that again. That's it for me.
Yes, I love that. Thank you, Galina. So the last question I have before we start taking questions from the audience, I actually want to know what's your favorite part of your current role? And also, do you mind sharing like what your aspirations are in the field? Like, are you hoping to move to a more senior role? So yes, that's our next question.
I can go first.
Thanks, Mina.
So my current role is I'm a product designer at a company that contracts me out to the government. So what I'm working on right now is redesigning the travel.state.gov website. Feel free to go stare at it. It does not look pretty. So that is why we are redesigning it. And I think that the most rewarding thing about it is just how, like, I'm really excited to see the project through because I know that it will be really impactful. If people are not familiar with the website at the moment, it currently helps U.S. citizens get their passport and or visas if you're overseas and you're in an emergency, things like that. If you're traveling somewhere, there's like travel advisories and information that you need to know before you travel. So it's just work that I feel that is really useful for people. So I'm excited to see the project through, and I'm excited to see when it launches.
Awesome. Good luck, Mina. I'm sure you have that one in the bag.
Thanks.
Of course.
I can go next. I think for me, because I'm in the lowest possible product designer position at Shopify with many, many steps ahead of me in terms of seniority. I have a lot of room to grow. So that is my immediate plan, is just to grow into more senior positions, to being able to own more things, take responsibility, deliver better, more robust design solutions. So working there. Eventually, I'm thinking of going more of a freelance way, maybe having my own agency. I don't know. But something to have a little bit more impact and maybe diversify my portfolio as well. But we'll see. I feel like the imposter syndrome comes in and I feel like I'm not ready yet. But maybe I should.
It's cool. Thank you, Galina.
Yeah, for myself, quite frankly, if I can stay at the company I'm with for the rest of my career, I'll be more than happy to do that.
Very nice.
When I started on in November, like I said, I was a person that they knew and stuff like that, and I basically got thrown in the deep end on some projects that where there were some issues and was successfully able to resolve those things. Now, the product that I make, it's called Vectorworks, is a true software product. It's not a web service or anything like that. So we have annual releases, and we just released our 2025 version last week. And one of the things that I was working on turned to become one of the flagship features for the latest release. So I was immediately able to come in and do some work, and then became a high profile item within the release of the software. So the thing for me that's really gratifying is the fact that, I'm helping create design software that designers then use to make amazing things. So I'm able to work with some extremely intelligent people all over the world. I'll be talking to people all the way from Bulgaria to Vancouver over the course of a day. And so it's really just an amazing, healthy, thriving opportunity. There's not, unless I was to go up into some management level situation, which I'm not sure I want to do because I really enjoy doing the feature design work that I'm doing. Um, yeah, so that's where I'm at. In many terms, just because of my age, I'm at a different strata of my career than some others, particularly in the tech industry. So that's where I'm at today.
It's wonderful. Thank you, Kevin. So we have several questions from all of our participants. I think it could be helpful if we have maybe one alum answer each question. I think that way we can get through as many of them as possible. Some of them are actually geared toward one person than another. Some are more generalized. So the very first question I'll ask, I'll just throw out there in the Megaverse. We know that there are lots of options available for learning UX and UI design. So could you share what in particular drew you to Design Lab?
I'm happy to go first, and I didn't answer the last question, but I'll make it brief.
Okay.
Favorite part of my current role is I work facing the sales and marketing team, as well as workforce AI. So I meet a lot of different stakeholders from the C-suite to just other varieties, which is amazing / terrifying, but really cool to just have such visibility. Work within AI. I know it's all the buzzword, ChatGPT, large language models, like everyone's doing it. But I think it's one of my aspirations of having come from an industry where I was hungry for it, as well as being kind of a student again. I work with so many talentedly smart people that it's kind of scary, but it's awesome just to have that learning ability again. So the question at hand now. I, again, had a colleague who did Design Lab. She transitioned from being a homeschool remote teacher, which is an amazingly interesting job in its own, to then be a consultant at Accenture. And I just knew kind of having that as a North Star and having her support and just knowing it's possible. I think, just to be very blunt about it, there were other cost restrictions. There were other things that I was comfortable in terms of investment that other programs had. And it just made the most sense for me at the time, financially.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Andrew. And can we have one more person answer that question regarding okay, I think can everyone hear me? Looks like
Yeah, we can hear you. It looks like your internet's a little unstable, Manny. Since I'm unmuted,
yeah,
I'll
looks like,
just do it.
okay, thanks,
So the
everyone.
reason, I basically chose Design Lab. I did online research about the various programs out there, read the reviews as far as what did people like about certain coursework, what did they not like about others, and so from that, mentorship. That mentorship relationship was a huge component in what I was looking for, and so the reviews on that for Design Lab were very positive. So that's pretty much how I did it. I didn't know anybody who had gone to Design Lab before. It was just basically pure internet research, and then its alignment with what I was looking for out of an educational experience.
Awesome.
Can I
Thank you,
just
Kevin.
quickly add, because I did an extensive research before jumping on this because that felt like a very big change and pivot. But what I was looking for was the amount of capstone projects. And I saw someone ask in the chat if the portfolio was enough. So I had 3 projects to put in my portfolio after this. And this is, I think, one of the highest numbers on the market of bootcamp. So I was looking for that. Similar to Kevin, also the mentorship relationship, but I think it's great and very personalized. And just my personal preference of not having lectures. And being self-paced. So just looking at that, but on the outcome, the portfolio, and I think I ended up with the pretty high quality portfolio as for a junior designer who just entered the field.
Yes, awesome. Thank you, Galina. And looks like we have a question for you, Mina, specifically. Did your previous experience as a graphic designer / visual designer help launch your UX career?
That's tough because I don't know the other side of things.
Yeah.
I think that it probably did. At least I think so. When I was doing the academy, then I was like, I really hope that my background as a designer already helps me land a job after this. And I guess I just don't know whether it did or didn't. And maybe it did, but I will say that it did help me understand the UI parts of the academy a lot. Like that was my favorite part, is actually getting into the visuals, because that was something that I was already familiar with. So I will say that it probably helped, I'm sure, but that's not to say that somebody without a background can't achieve the same outcome. I think that it really just depends on how much work you put into your capstone projects and your portfolio, and making sure that it's the best that it can visually be. I hope that answers the question.
Yes, that's super helpful. Thank you, Mina. Galina, question for you. Was it hard to do the Design Lab program remotely, and how did you stay motivated?
I like the remote portion. I think I spoke to it a little bit. It's just the network that they put you in helps you stay motivated, and also, I don't know, just keeps you on track, because you need to bring something and report back on things to your mentor or to your design critique class. So that, I think, was fun, but also seeing your North Star somewhere ahead of you and why you're doing this. There is a reason you started. There is a reason you're spending so many hours in this. I feel like just having that inside all the time just helps you keep going, because what's the point of dropping or not doing it to your best potential? You're just cheating on yourself. That doesn't really make any difference. So spending enough time, hopefully without burning out on capstones, will just bring you results in the end. So that's what motivated me.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Galina. Kevin, this question's for you. As also an alum with a background in architecture, do you have any specific suggestions where I could leverage such a mindset?
Well, I mean, there's a lot of overlap between what is done in architecture with UX design. You're already accustomed to working with stakeholders. You're used to having iterative design. So it's a pretty broad thing. And part of it really becomes, do you want to run away from architecture and construction industry, or is that a space where you want to stay? There's a lot of innovation going on right now with virtual reality. That is a space where we have a natural advantage because of our visualization skills in 3 dimensions. There are a lot of construction companies out there. You have software companies like Procore that make software for the construction industry. There are people actually who are mentors at Design Lab that work at Procore. So there's, Home Depot, companies like that. If the building industry is something that you're interested in, there's actually people who are mentors at Design Lab that work at Home Depot. So it's really just a matter of identifying whether you want to remain within the construction industry space, or if you want to use those design skills in another way. That can help focus your job search considerably. So I hope that's helpful.
Yeah, super helpful. Thank you, Kevin. And question for you, Andrew. I've been told to network. How did you go about networking?
Ooh, love this question. It's kind of corny, but I think before even career transitioning, like LinkedIn was my social media of choice. I think it's taken a totally different curve within COVID and the pandemic. It's kind of like transcended into like Facebook circa 2010 with like everyone's parents on it. It's become like there's unhinged UI posts, there's like your birthday parties of colleagues. So I think it's a little bit of a different world. I also leverage ADP list. I think that was something that was really integral in just finding people who were already doing things that I wanted to potentially do or work at companies. Cold emailing people. I mean, trying something new, doing the new thing, doing the hard thing. I think there were so many different moments within Design Lab at a macro level of putting yourself out there. I mean, kind of like Alina said, like, remember your why. Why are you doing this? Like, things are always going to potentially be awkward or new. So I think just asking for help, asking for 30 minutes, being not afraid to ask for someone's time. I think your future you is going to already kind of thank you for just taking this opportunity and like, how bad do you want it? So, I mean, I'm on ADP list as a mentor. I think so many people reach out to me. I mean, even after this, feel free to reach out to me. I think it's just a matter of how you want to be proactive in your own way. It can be awkward and difficult, but I think you just have to invest in yourself and go for it.
Oh, thank you, Andrew. And I think this question is very well suited for you, Galina. Can you talk a little bit about work-life balance while taking the course?
Good question. As someone who did not do a good work-life balance, but also I have a slight ADHD, so I tend to hyper-focus on things. So I'm not a good example, probably. But I think what Design Lab gives you liberty is to decide how much you want to put in. If you don't feel you're 100% on a day, just don't do it. It's okay. If you feel 120%, just do it. But also, I feel like having a structure and having your scheduled days off helped me a lot. I was stressing a lot about not doing something on a particular night, but then it leads nowhere. Don't do that. You'll probably had that previously in your life, but just having a very much devoted time, especially if you're doing full time. You guys probably know the best. Just having the time where you study and then having the time where you just taking a rest and just being very intentional about your breaks and your rest time, because it's not something we do in our daily life. It just somehow happens. But when you're in this intense learning environment, I think that's where you need to be more intentional about it.
Yes, I love that word intentional, Galina. Spot on. And yes, question, let's see. This is a good one for you, Mina. How long was the job hunt, and did the career services aspect of the program help you?
So my job hunt was about 3 months, and the career services, I would say some of it did help because I don't think I'm like Andrew, where LinkedIn is my choice of social media, but there were things about LinkedIn that I already knew and things that I did not know. So it was helpful to learn the things that I did not know at the moment, or when I was in career services. Then my career mentor was able to help me she suggested some things that I add on, which were the case studies, and they were like linked directly to my LinkedIn. I think they're still on there, actually. I haven't updated it since like last year. Maybe I should. So those were things that I did not know, but it's helpful because then you see like a little thumbnail of whatever you're linking from your portfolio. So then it's just like something a little bit more visual than like, your list of jobs in your past life. So it was helpful to be able to like put those on there. And she also recommended me rewording something. So I will say that portion of career services was helpful for me.
That's wonderful. Thank you, Mina. And where's that? I saw a really good. Oh, here we go. I think this is a great one for you, Andrew. Did you get any other job? Did you get a job other than a junior entry-level position? If so, describe in what ways you justified lack of experience.
So just some understanding, did I apply for other jobs outside of my current role that I got?
Oh, so it looks like this one, they want to know if you only applied for like entry-level jobs or if you did apply for any junior or senior level, like what do you think would have made up for your lack of experience?
Oh, yes. I applied for any job. I think a little bit of, I don't want to say blind optimism, but I mean, once one gets out into the job search, it becomes fairly obvious that people don't really always know what they're looking for in a job description. I think a little bit circumstantial, but coming from having experience outside of just this boot camp, I really leaned on my past experience to play up my bootcamp experience as just an additive. So I didn't always adhere to the exact entry or senior. And there was, I mean, anecdotally, there are people far less skilled than you getting jobs kind of more senior than you. I mean, everything is just so circumstantial and how much you put yourself out there. So yes, I applied to many jobs I might not have been applicable for, potentially got denied, but I think there's also just that, I mean, you miss every shot you don't take type whatever expression you want to use. I think you can't really be tethered to expectations of others when you even do this boot camp. You just have to know you're going to get your job and when it's only a matter of time, which is kind of toxic positivity. But I think there's just some of that you need, or else you're going to you need wind in your sails. If you have to give it yourself, all for it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Andrew. And I think this would be a good question for you, Kevin. The tech market is terrible right now. Do you have any tricks on how to stand out with it with hundreds and thousands of applicants for each position?
Oh boy, I mean, it is one of those things where I think that positivity, that attitude that Andrew just mentioned is really, really helpful. If you're presenting yourself as, a professional who's an enthusiastic person who would love to, be a member of their company, yeah, I think that is, a tremendous asset. One thing that I do find that a lot of people do not necessarily do is research the companies that you're actually applying for jobs for. It's one of those things where in my job search, I was applying at companies that I knew I would want to work for, ones that I had researched or ones that I knew already. So if a recruiter was suddenly calling me and wanted to ask me some questions, I would have knowledge of, okay, who is this company? What do they do? And all this other kind of stuff. And there are many, many people out there that will just put, to have their one letter, and they will send it out to 1,000 different job applications and stuff like that. And that's just spray and pray. Like that's not really a strategy, a job search. So above all else, I'd say if you want to stand out, make sure that you do the research about the companies that you're going to be applying for, and that can also be a way of curating the opportunities that you're actually going to apply for, and both of those things will help tremendously, I think.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you, Kevin. So let's take one more question before I have each alum share some parting words. Although I do think they did a wonderful job. I heard like blind optimism. Andrew shared another one, toxic positivity, which I really like. I think that's amazing. So I'll add that to my list of vocabulary terms. So let's see here. I think there was one really good one that I lost. Where was it? Okay, I'll ask you this question, Mina. Do you feel like everything from Design Lab helped you with getting hired, or do you wish that you had more information?
I would say that it did help. I don't know that I was necessarily missing anything that couldn't be learned from actually being in the field and being in the job. I think that it was very useful to be able to have those foundations about what exactly UX design was, right? So like repeating what I said earlier, like I was designing websites just to design them and I didn't know like what made sense for it to be on the homepage. So I think like learning like the actual research behind UX design was something that was very new to me. So I think that was really useful, even though admittedly research is not my favorite part of UX design. I think that it's something that is necessary for me to know, even if I'm not necessarily focused on research at the moment, because having that background and knowing those methodologies are things that are really important. So I would say overall, it definitely did help. And I not at the top of my head, like I can't think of anything that I feel that I'm missing particularly. I think maybe what could have been useful, but this is something that I got from my mentor anyways. I think what could be useful is just like real life scenario type discussions. And I guess this is what this is. I think that at the time, I don't know if maybe I wasn't aware that there were like live sessions with alumni or anything like that. So maybe I think that probably could have helped me is like seeing people post graduation in the job and getting their perspective on these things.
I guess wonderful. And I'll ask a bonus question. I'll send this over to Galina's way. Can you take us through the portfolio building process, like phase one in UX Academy and also phase two?
Oh yeah, that's a very good question. So it's just the design lab curriculum is built around the idea that all of your capstone projects will become the projects in your portfolio, and some people also include the phase one, which is really the learning project, lots of like real life. One thing that people keep mentioning in Discord and everywhere, and you'll hear it many times, is try to get a real life project in your portfolio, even that if that's a capstone project. Which, being a new UX designer, you're just like, duh, really? How do you do that? But I think what worked for me was so I was at a park talking to another mom, and she mentioned that her husband and herself, they own the tattoo salon, and their website is garbage, and they don't get anything out of that, and they really need a new website, but they don't have money, and yada, yada, yada. So it's like, oh, by the way, and so one of my capstone projects, was the redesign of the website, I did with them. Well, they eventually did not build it because they still did not have money to implement that. But I got to work with a real stakeholder who had their own preferences and their real users and use cases and all of that. So that was very cool that I was able to bring in some real life perspective. But building the website itself, I think, was a little stressful because you're a designer. You're supposed to have a pretty website as your portfolio website, but that's also a little bit of a stress. But I think what helped me a lot is also the community on Discord. So I built my website on Framer, and there was the entire channel just people sharing tips and tricks on how to build a website in Framer. So that was very helpful. But yeah, you graduate with a very decent portfolio which you can apply with, which I think is a great bonus.
Awesome. Thank you, Galina. Okay, so I want each alum to just share some parting words before we close out our amazing session today. So the question that I have for each of you is, what advice would you give for folks who are considering a career change in UX and UI design?
I'll go first. I mean, I've done so a little bit later in my career than probably some of my other folks on this panel, and it's just a matter of you got to getting past that fear of change and fear of the unknown. I will say that you're going to get out of it what you put into it, and that's the thing that you have to be your number one advocate for your own career. And if you take that approach, I guarantee that good things will come of it.
Thanks, Kevin.
Oh my gosh, I was gonna say the exact same thing, but yeah, I think that the fear aspect of it was really what delayed my start to it, because I was scared about starting something new and different, and like scared of the failure that could potentially happen. And so like I think that like just not being afraid of what is unknown is important. I think that, you just, and this is so cliche, but you just don't know unless you try, right? So I think that like being brave enough to like start something new and different, especially if you're completely shifting your career, is it's really powerful to be able to jump into that mindset and be able to start your career in such a different direction. But also just know that like, there's a huge support system within Design Lab itself, even like outside of like the people that you're already personally connected with, then like Design Lab itself has like such a huge support system. So I think that like whatever you need, then there is somebody out there who would be able to assist you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Mina.
Yeah, all the wonderful things. I don't know what to add. The fear aspect is huge, but it's all could be a little bit diminished by just the support you're getting. And I was surprised by the remote. Well, although it is a remote environment, how much holding your back and holding your hand when you need that is happening. So you never feel like you're alone and you're not doing that just on your own. So there is always someone who is cheering up for you, whether that's your mentor or your peers. And I saw someone asking how much of the connection with your cohort you are getting. It really comes to how much you want to put in. Some people will not stay in touch with their cohort at all. Some people will form very strong bonds with their team. So that's yet another support system.
Thank you, Galina.
I would say mine might be a little unsanctioned, but don't wait. Don't be afraid to break the rules. There are so many new tools out there to help do things quicker, faster, get feedback, iterate. I think there are many moments within Design Lab I might not have had the right number of user interviews, the right thing done yet. But it was very much me holding myself back of the expectation of the rules I set for myself. I mean, there are people out there that are going to cut corners, use ChatGPT unethically, do some things that might not be right by our standards, but they're still going to get the job done. And there's always going to be more time to work on a portfolio. So I think holding ourselves to standards and giving yourself grace that it's going to take time, but the more you invest in yourself and try that new thing, it'll become more easy and more comfortable to find out what's right. But don't be afraid to just get into it, get your hands dirty.
Wonderful. Thank you, Andrew. And I did promise our alums that we'd tidy up at 7:30, so I'm trying my best to keep my promise. So I want to thank our alums. We are immeasurably grateful for all of you sharing your UX Academy experience. It seems like everyone had a great time. There were lots of questions and lots of engagement in the chat. And without further ado, our alums actually shared their LinkedIn profiles. So I'm going to paste those in the chat below. They'd love to connect with you. Can we also have a virtual round of applause for our amazing alumni panel, please? So I'm going to share the confetti reaction. So let's show our alums some love, everyone. They did an incredible job. And yes, look, they're already coming in. Wonderful. Thanks, everyone. And I also want to share, aside from sharing our alums' LinkedIn profiles, as you can see, our admissions email is here in case you'd like to reach out with any additional questions. I'm also going to share our call link in case you'd like to book a phone call or video call to ask any additional questions about the program. And of course, we do have informational webinars that are geared toward teaching you all about the curriculum in UX Academy, structure, cadence, tuition, like scholarships, that sort of information. So I'm going to share the link with all of you in the chat below as well in case you'd like to join an upcoming informational webinar. So I've just shared that in the chat below. So that actually concludes our alumni panel. Once again, thank you all for joining. Thank you, alums. Thank you, participants. We had an amazing session. I wish you all an incredible rest of your day and take care, everyone.
Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Thank you all.